Radiant Black issue number 2, and this is from Image Comics. So I already reviewed the first one and I enjoyed it. I'll probably put a link to it somewhere on this video, either somewhere here or at the end of the video or in the description below, so you guys can check that out if you guys want. But basically, I thought it was pretty good, but it could have done more. Felt like it kind of took too long to get to the point. So how does issue number 2 stack up? Well, let's get into it. So we start off with our main character, Nathan. So anyone who didn't read the first issue, basically in the first issue, he lost his job, or at least his job as a writer never took off. He's in debt. He moved back in with his parents. He went to hang out with his friend and he discovered some powers that he's gained. That basically it's almost like Power Ranger type powers. And now we have him coming back home after the events that happened the night before, the previous issue. And we have a scene where he talks with his dad at the breakfast table. And they basically discuss, how's your situation? What's your money like? And then they kind of get into an argument. The dad's like, you can stay here as long as you want, but you have to have some kind of job. You have to bring in some kind of money. And the scene was fine, but it went on way too long. There's literally 6 pages of this. Yeah, 6 pages. We got 6 pages of 2 characters talking. I'm not one of those people where every page needs to be action, but 6 pages in a comic of nothing but dialogue is really boring, especially when you can condense this down into a page or 2. You don't need 6 pages of this. It's too much filler. And then we cut to Marshall, who's Nathan's friend, at his job, and again we get an entire page of nothing but him talking to a customer about BS that has nothing to do whatsoever with the plot. It's basically almost like a scene out of Clerks with Randall, talking with Dante about something about pop culture or whatever. But here, there's no point in it. It brings nothing to the table. It basically is just a meaningless conversation that ends with the 2 cops from the previous issue showing up and saying hey, we need to talk. So again, 7 issues into a comic, we get nothing but talking, and it can be easily condensed down into less than half of that. You can do it in 2.5 pages or even 2 pages. You can have 1 page dedicated to Nathan talking with his dad, and then you can, maybe even 1.5 pages. You can just have a couple panels of him talking to a customer, and then the cops show up, and then we cut to the next thing. Just be quicker about this. 7 pages of nothing but dialogue is really boring. And it's not until even in the 8th page, we just kind of get some weird visuals. And it's not until the 9th page that we see Nathan floating above his bed because he's unconsciously using his powers. So it's all right, 8 pages, 9 pages actually, before we finally get something, unique to the plot. I guess maybe the cop showing up can be a little bit something, but so he sees his little power ball, he grabs it, but rather than transform, it kind of disappears because he says, as he's grabbing, he says, you got to go away. So it goes away. So now he's starting to realize that his thoughts are able to manifest and he can control these powers by thinking. And then that's when the cops arrive. And the cops are basically hey, we didn't forget what happened last night. We know you had some crazy powers and we think maybe you can help us. And then that's when Nathan's mom shows up and she's kind of worried, why are the cops talking to my son? But the cops are oh, your son did a really good job yesterday. He kind of helped us out. Kind of just make sure the mom's not worried so that she can go back in the house and they can continue their conversation. And I was wow, we have cops in a modern day story that are actually portrayed not as villains. That's pretty crazy. And one of them is white and he's not a villain and he's not a jerk and he's these are kind of friendly cops. Wow. You don't see that. You don't see that in modern day comics anymore, especially from a white cop. Well, I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole other discussion that I don't want to talk about. But yeah, so basically they say, there's this other guy. He looks like you, only he's red. And he's been robbing a bunch of banks. Does he have anything to do with you? And Nathan's what? No, I had no idea that that was even anyone else with these powers. I thought I was the only one. And the cop's like, well, okay, like, you know, you have these powers. Maybe you can help us. Like, our community really needs your help. Like, we have this lunatic running around robbing banks, not to mention just all the other things that happen, you know, in a city. Maybe you can use your powers for good and help us out. And then they kind of disappear. And I'm going to skip a bunch of pages. But eventually, Nathan shows up at a junkyard where he meets the Radiant Red. I don't know what his name would be. I'm just going to call him Radiant Red. So he meets the Radiant Red, and Nathan's kind of like talking with him. He's like, hey, like, maybe you should be like, you know, how did you find your powers? Did you also find a black hole too? Like, maybe, you know, you should stop robbing banks. It's not really the smartest thing to do. And the Red kind of sees this as a threat, so he fights him. So we basically get a scene where Red kind of uppercuts Black. Nathan, you know, uses his powers to do like a psychic push. And then we just kind of get a fight scene between the two before Red beats up Nathan and runs off with the money. He hops into Nathan's car and tries to steal it. And then he tries to ride it off a bridge. And then we have a scene where Nathan's like trying to struggle to keep his car from falling into the water below, as well as trying to keep Red from running away. Yeah, eventually he's able to save his car and he's able to get the money, but Red escapes. And so he delivers the money back to the cops. And there's a bit more, but I'm not really going to go into it. So all in all, this was a better chapter, I think. We actually get like action scenes. We have, you know, our character learning his powers and stuff like that. We have a confrontation with the, I guess the Dark Ranger. So we have the Power Ranger versus the Dark Ranger in a sense. So yeah, like finally, like we get a fight scene in a comic book. It only took 2 issues, but hey, at least we got it, and it wasn't that bad. This is almost kind of reminding me almost like a modern day kind of like Spider-Man in a sense. I mean, it's not as great as Spider-Man, but it's still a really enjoyable series. I'm liking it. I would say that I enjoyed this issue. My only beef is way too much filler. Way too much. You could have condensed a lot of these pages down. Like, I'm not going to explain what happens next, but we get another 3 pages of dialogue after Nathan returns the money. So we have, let's see, we've had, actually, you know what? I'm going to count all this. So I've counted it all. We have 17 pages of just dialogue. I don't know about you, but I don't like that. So as I said before, we got like what? We got 6 pages of him talking with his dad, which can be cut down. We have a page of Marshall talking with the customer, which can be cut down. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of him talking with the cops, which can be cut down. We have 1 page of him talking with Marshall. We have an entire page of him driving people around, and it doesn't really do anything for us other than show that Nathan doesn't really like this job of being an Uber driver. And I guess it works in the sense that like this is what kind of makes him decide, you know what, maybe I should help the cops. But it's still just an entire page of just meaningless dialogue. You could have cut that down. We got a page of him talking with Red before they get into their fight. And then we got another page of the cops talking before Nathan returns his money. And then we got 2 more pages of Nathan talking with someone else before the issue ends. So yeah, a lot of talking. Yeah, like I said, 17 pages of talking and only a few of actual fight scenes. So yeah, I would say this is maybe a B-. No, B- might be generous. Maybe a C+, but that... C+. It's above average. It's a good issue. I enjoyed it, but there's way too much filler. Like you could have trimmed this down a lot and add, you know, more stuff to it instead. Like more action or just more things that actually progress the plot quicker. I don't know. I'm assuming this is like an ongoing series and not a mini series, but yeah, well, we got 2 pages, but we've got 2 issues before our main character actually gets into a fight in a tokusatsu series. And I'm going to guess that like maybe between the first 2 issues, I'm going to guess more than 3/4 of this, yeah, is nothing but talking. Yeah, that's Radiant Black issue number 2. I know it kind of sounds like I'm bragging on it. I did like it. Like I said, like I enjoyed this series. I guess it's just I'm more disappointed because I can see the potential and I can see like a lot of greatness in it. It's just kind of being hampered down by way too much filler. So I'm not putting this on the writer so much as I would say put the blame on the editor. If I was the editor of this, I would tell Kyle Higgins, like, hey dude, like you gotta cut a lot of this. There's way too much fat on this. We gotta cut a lot of this stuff out, trim it down till we just get like the core of our story and then work from there. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what you guys think. Anyone else reading this series? And if so, what are you guys' thoughts? Do you guys agree with me? Do you feel like there's just too much talking, too much filler, and not enough actual meat of the story? Or do you like the pacing of it so far? Let me know in the comments down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later. So what did you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.